Hey, all you wanderlusters and hometown heroes. This is Remain, Roam, Return, a podcast that pits your hometown lifestyle against the allure of far-off frontiers. In the show, we are going to try to settle the age-old debate on whether it is better to be the local legend or the one that got away.
And we are your host. I am Christian.
And I am Damien.
And together, we are going to spend each episode trying to discover which lifestyle truly is best. Is it better to stay close to the roots that raised you, or to fly away into the unknown?
Yep, and during these conversations, we will be discussing personal experiences and asking guests for their input to decide once and for all whether it is better to remain, roam, or return. Hey everybody, welcome back to the to Remain, Roam, Return podcast. I have to just say right off the bat, I'm just seeing Christian for the first time.
Yes.
And I don't know, are you in Scotland ready to go on the nine green, or what is going on here?
The ninth green. Yes, that's where everyone starts a round of golf, on the ninth green. Not the first tee.
You
or
look
even
like you're sun-kissed
tee.
already, so I figured you've been out there for a while.
Well, here in the nice Midwest, it's the first I don't want to say first official day of spring, because that will just jinx us. But it's 65 and sunny. After 2 weeks ago, it was negative 30, and
Righteous.
so we have windows open, but also that is a bad thing because my spring allergy. So it's just it's nice out, but also runny nose. Do you want to have a Kleenex in your pocket for the next 2 months?
It's facial tissue. We are not sponsored by Kleenex.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was now a generic term. It had lost its trademark.
Not at all. You know who hasn't lost their trademark is our guest today. I am very I don't know. I was looking for a segue to bring you in. I think that worked.
At least my segue wasn't involving haggis, so I'm okay.
Or a golf cart of some sort.
Golf cart.
Golf. Well, all right, let's move on from golf and haggis.
Yes.
Anyways, today we have with us Mike Paine, and I'm very excited because Mike Paine is a just very multifaceted guest, and I'm looking forward to it. Voice actor, radio DJ, interviewer, Mike Paine, welcome to the podcast, buddy.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me, guys. Christian and Damien, thank you so much. I can't wait to get started. There's so much to talk about. I mean, there just is. There's a lot to say.
There really is. I guess I'm going to get started right off the cuff, because what really drew me to you is your first interview ever was with Ozzy Osbourne.
What?
Yeah.
I need to know what the hell this is about. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Cafe Postal. Cafe Postal is located in the historic Rail and Commerce Building in Little Italy neighborhood of Omaha, Nebraska. Established in 1926, Cafe Postal was originally used as a mail depot and was a hub for mail all over the country. Located conveniently across the street from Union Station, which is now the beautiful Durham Heritage Museum, it is a true glimpse into the much overlooked history of Omaha, Nebraska. After its closing in the 1970s, the building sat vacant until 2017, when it was converted into the beautiful cafe along with several other offices throughout the rest of the building. They offer a huge variety of breakfast, lunch, and pastry items prepared and delivered daily by their sister company, Attitude on Food. One visit to Cafe Postal and it is clear that every menu item is passionately staff curated and artistically prepared with love and expertise. Cafe Postal is also available for private events, featuring exclusive catering and event coordination by the Omaha local Attitude on Food. Perfect for your next big celebration. If you're in Omaha, Nebraska, head over to Cafe Postal for a modern experience in a historic venue and enjoy some Midwest hospitality. Oh, and be sure to tell them the boys from Triple R sent you. Now, back to the show.
Or how?
So the short story version is, the genesis of this is, I sold my guitar to the overnight DJ for a rock heavy metal network for $50 because I couldn't play for shit. I couldn't play for anything. I sucked. Okay. I was like, I couldn't even get like Kiss songs. I was horrible. So I sold him the guitar, and he's like, "Do you ever think of getting into radio?" And of course, I would have loved to. I didn't even know what that meant, but I'm like, "Yeah, actually," because I did some voice work before in '87 for a cable television service, and I thought radio would be great. Yeah, and I love this network. And he goes, "Well, the guy down the hall at the Top 40 station wants a producer. You want to try for that?" I'm like, "Yeah," not knowing anything about what that means. I just went down the hall and, the next day and said, "Hi, I'm Mike. I'm your producer." And he's like, "What do you mean you're my producer? I got all these applicants. I got all these resumes. What do you mean you're my producer?" And I'm like, "I'm the guy. I'll work for free for a week. If you don't like me, kick me the hell out and just hire somebody from your resumes." And he's like, "All right." So he gave me a shot. And he taught me everything.
That's such an 80s thing, though, being like,
it is.
That's like what my parents would say if I were to lose my job. Just, go canvassing, start handing out resumes. Someone will hire you and be like, "There's this thing called like LinkedIn, Dad."
And here's me resume. What's that? And I just walked in and learned how to cut tape. I learned how to do bits. I learned how to take calls and play stuff. And I didn't have any training at all. I trained on the fly. Mm-hmm. And the guy that sold me the guitar ended up becoming the program director for the network down the hall. And he's like, "Come on over part-time. Let's have you on the air." Yeah. And not knowing anything about being a DJ on the air. So I knew the music pretty well. I knew hard rock and metal pretty well. So I fit in okay. I started off okay, did pretty well. And a month and a half in, I was filling in because Ozzy Osbourne was going to tape a bunch of interviews down the hall for 5 shows for the next 5 weekdays during that week. And they were like, "Well, he's here. Why don't you just throw him in the studio with whoever's on the air?" Which happened to be me.
Wow.
No warning, nothing, no prep, zero, nothing. Just Ozzy just walks in and goes, "Hey, can you interview Ozzy?" "Yeah, I guess I'm here." I mean, yeah. What am I going to say? No.
Well, what's the other option?
Yeah, no, I'm good at get out, Ozzy. Kick rocks. No, I mean, that's not a thing.
The Prince of Darkness?
Yeah, sure. So he just walked in and we just started talking about stuff. And I asked him about, random things like acting in movies and how a photo shoot works and not the typical stuff. How did he find Zakk Wylde as a guitar player, how that process worked. Because I heard an interview earlier in the day when he was at the legendary classic rock station in town. And it sucked. I'm just going to say it. It sucked. It was horrible. And, how's the tour? How's the album? And the one question, and it was cringy, he goes, "Do you miss Randy?" Like Randy Rhoads. It's like, what kind of question is that?
Right. What is he supposed to answer?
And he walked out, and because that was the last question, and there was no interaction after that, so I knew he left. And I'm like, "Ooh, I could do better than that," and I did.
Nice.
So,
wow.
Yeah, there you go. And in the little peephole window is kind of a little porthole, little window into the studio. There are all these heads in there looking like this, and there was corporate guys from the network and guys from the record label that were looking in management and all these different people looking into this. Like, who is this 19-year-old kid? Where did you get him?
Yeah.
And from then it took off. And after that, I became full-time because I was doing 3 jobs for the network at once. I was a producer for the Top 40 station, part-time at that radio network, and then also doing the traffic continuity, the commercials, keeping them together for the whole network, for all the affiliates and all the formats. And it was like, so they're like, "Okay, you're one guy making 3 paychecks. Let's make you one full-time guy making 1 paycheck." Yep. Okay, I'll be the host on the, so one guy ended up getting fired. I got full-time, which is great. And then the rest took off from there. And by the way, I have a show and tell. So this is the picture let's get the glare off of there. So this is the picture with Ozzy.
That is fucking killer.
That is cool.
And then the cool thing was about a month or so later, because this was early November, in December, I got a Christmas card from them.
No shit.
Yeah. So,
that is million Christmas dreams confirmed.
And you get that.
That was my Ozzy impression.
Sharon! Yeah. You get tons you get tons of stuff in the mail when you work in radio. I used to get tons of stuff. And then it was one of those things where I'm like, letter, record label, letter. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Is this for, and it's like, it's just a normal Christmas card. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll keep that. Yeah. So then it took off from there. And from there, the radio thing was like, it was like a movie in progress, but you're in it. And
like Airheads.
It was just, you're walking around going, somebody famous just walked by, or I ended up sitting in a chair doing, recording station IDs with Gene Simmons just out of nowhere. And it's like, how does this stuff happen? It's like, and I wasn't fanboying. I wasn't geeking out. I was just pretty much hanging.
Yeah.
And with Gene, just recording with stuff with him, we just talking, and I was doing stupid voices and he was laughing, and he was like, why don't you come hang out with us tonight? It could have been the best or worst decision of my life. I'll never know, but I had to work and I couldn't get out of work. And it was live radio back then. You couldn't just, tape it or anything. And I was like,
right.
that would have been a great story, but
that would have been.
Yeah. So he said, all right, well, here's my business card. And if you ever see any bands that are good local bands that aren't signed, I have a record label. So he gave me his freaking business card.
No shit.
Yeah, I have it somewhere. I don't know where it is, but
where was this?
Yeah, what city were you out of?
It was Dallas, Texas. Yeah, I was in Dallas.
Okay, so you're in a big market where
huge
big bands are coming through, like you said,
and it was a national network on top of that, so it wasn't just Dallas;
Damn.
It was all over. Yeah.
So you probably got to see so much, and at this point, like late '80s, radio is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like.
It was the thing. We hit right at the peak of the hair metal, pop metal, heavy metal thing, late 80s, early 90s up until 91 was like the peak. And that was when I was there, was 88 to 91. And that was like the highest peak of that type of music to me, I think. I mean, unless it's not, but it was everything. And it was getting played on MTV all the time. And we were getting crossover promotions. People were talking about us. Bands were wearing our T-shirts and videos, and it was like, wow, we're a thing. This is cool. We're a thing.
No, that was really the magnum opus of that genre, because I was born in October of '90, and I was raised on hair metal, heavy metal from that era. Headbangers Ball, like that was always on as a kid. So that's the fact that you were ingratiated in that out of the blue, like you just kind of started and doing that. And you were talking about how, you weren't fanboying or anything like that.
No.
But I wanted to say how impressive that is, because we actually, probably 10 or so episodes ago, we had on the lead singer, one of my favorite bands, just like a local British band. And I had to try so hard not to I was sweating, So I can only imagine how that was one of your first weeks or whatever, and freaking Ozzy Osbourne walks in.
Yeah, like 6 or 7 weeks into my first time DJing anything ever, and never having any experience before or training or nothing. It was just, my training was the top 40 format, and I didn't voice anything except funny bits, so that wasn't training really.
Yeah.
And I still have it. It's still, actually, you can see it on YouTube if you search for me. At Crazy Mike Paine Z-Rock, and you'll find all my interviews. I've remastered them, and this tribute site uploaded them all. So you can hear the Ozzy one and a bunch of other ones, and it still holds up, I think. So I mean, I was 19.
Throw that in the bio.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was something that and when you talk to these people, and it's just the same holds true today, even more so than ever with social media. Back then there wasn't any, but they just want to do whatever they want to do, and they want to hang. They don't want someone, sign my, there goes my mic, sign my elbow, sign my forehead, sign my boob. It's like, all right, they've seen all that
baby
before. Yeah, dude. Oh, that's Ozzy. They get all that all the time every day. So, I'll just say, a lot of times, not Ozzy, but a lot of other people, I just go, hey, you want to go somewhere and eat? And it's like, we'd go to Denny's or something stupid, or JoJo's or wherever. It's just normal stuff. There was this one time, Sepultura, a couple of the guys from Sepultura, Max and Andreas. Yes. And this was in '90 when Arise was becoming a thing, and they were just starting to hit. And Max and Andreas, the guy from the label, whoever was local, didn't pick him up, and they're like, dude, we're at the airport. Come help us. All right. I'm coming. I'll go to DFW. Here we go. So I went to DFW. We hung out. We had Mexican food, and we hung out at the hotel room and talked about music and stuff. And it was great. I mean, that's just normal. It's just normal people. It wasn't like, that's Max and Andreas from Sepultura. It was just, it's Max and Andreas. And just hung out with them. And then they faxed me later when they got to New York to the record label and said, Mike, it was killer having Mexican food with you. We had a great time. It's like, that's the kind of stuff that, I hope that still happens, because everything's today, a lot of today is so contrived and formulated. And it's like, oh, I want to get the TikTok moment deal. But, back then it was just so natural and organic, I guess. It just happened. And you just hung out with people. It wasn't like, pre-planned and, ooh, where's the camera at? Let me look this way and let me pretend to be surprised and go over there. And it wasn't one of those deals. So yeah.
I've always heard from other people who've been in radio or interviewers or stuff like that, where that's career is as long as you're a good hang, most people are going to like you. As long as, like you were saying, not fanboying out, just as funny as to say, just treating them like a normal person.
Yeah.
They're gonna be cool with you and oh yeah, just talk about not specifically ask them when you're just hanging, when you're off the clock kind of thing of being asking them questions or so what does this song mean or something like that, but just general things. You're you guys what's your order at Denny's, man?
Exactly. And the thing then, and this is for all the kids out there listening, because I'm old, I'm 56, and I don't care who knows it. So I wear it as a freaking badge, all right? Yeah. I've been there. So anyway, and you also have to be nice to everybody. Just be cool to everybody. The record label people don't go, oh, I just want to talk to the Rockstars attitude.
Yeah.
And I hung out with them all the time. I mean, that was just, and it helped me out because things would happen where they would give me world premieres on stuff. They'd fly people in to get the world premieres of albums, and they'd play them with the artist on the air for the first time in the world. For me, on my show, it's all right, well, let's make these people feel special when they come to Dallas. Let's go have a bagel.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the real secret is, because actually Christian and I have talked about this probably ad nauseum at this point on this podcast, but one of my least favorite conversation starters is, what do you do for a living, or anything about your job? And I can only imagine, as somebody whose job it is to perform in front of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, is asking them questions about that. It's I do it every day of my life. It's not necessarily something I want to talk about. So when you just talk about personal things, or, just hanging out, being a good hang, shooting shit and ribbing each other, I think that's what really builds a true connection with people, as opposed to the shallow basic questions that. And so in that same light, instead of fanboying about stuff like this with you, I want to take a second to take it back, because you said that this was happening in Dallas, Texas.
Right.
Is that where you're from originally?
No, I am from Chicago, which I live in Chicago again.
Okay. Returner. All right.
Yeah, I'm coming back around. I made the full loop.
Yep.
Okay.
So my dad had a glass company business which had 3 different cities: Atlanta, Chicago, and Dallas. Atlanta closed, so it was Chicago and Dallas. And Chicago was kind of fine on its own, so he moved down to Dallas, and we all moved. And it was my senior year in high school coming up.
Wow.
So yeah. Damn. So it was a complete culture shock going from Chicago to Dallas.
Sure. Especially Dallas in the 80s.
Yeah.
Of just the show Dallas and probably cocaine.
Well, that and King of the Hill a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I had you want to race my pickup? It's no, I don't. I don't.
In my Toyota Tercel? No.
No. Yeah, it's fine. You'll have a Mercedes? I'm well, it's an old car and the transmission slips, but yeah, I got one.
You can't get it out a second, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it has a problem going into D, but if you want me to race, I'll be at the starting line when you're already down the road. All right. I'll race my Mercedes. Mercedes. So yeah, there was a lot of that, and it was a little culture shock, but it was also cool knowing that, hey, you talk funny. All right. Well, I guess you talk like those new people on the news.
Yeah.
That's a good thing? Is it bad? I don't know.
You sound like you're not from around here.
Yeah, you ain't from around here, are you? Yeah. So naive me, that's where I, went to school at University of Texas at Arlington for a cup of coffee, because my counselor, I wish I remembered his name, he gave me the best advice ever. I had a broadcasting major, and I got this opportunity at the network, and he was like, why are you still here talking to me? Go get that job. You'll never get an opportunity like that again.
Wow.
To fall in your lap. He goes, quit now. Go get that job.
Damn.
Unless you don't get it, then come back. But quit and go get the job.
Yeah.
Who would ever say that today?
Well, you would lose your job. Because if it didn't work out, somebody would probably sue them.
Right, yeah. So best advice I ever got was from that counselor. Thank you, counselor, wherever you are. But yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out whoever you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lived in Dallas for 7 years roughly. And then the network went a different direction because they went alternative because that's the way.
Yeah. I was going to ask you said you were there from 88 to 91, which was kind of like the rise, very high rise of that genre. Mm. And then me and Damien both love music, especially rock music. And so I've read books and listened to different podcasts about that changing from hair metal and then Nirvana
grunge
changing everything and record labels being well, that's the prettiest girl at the prom now. We got to go get that. And so how is it from a radio perspective? Do you remember, did your radio station get Nirvana? And do you remember that kind of moment?
I do, because we actually had the moment. It was at my apartment complex, and I had John Bush from Armored Saint and a bunch of people from the station over, and from Anthrax too, and other bands, obviously. But and we were talking about it, and he goes, Firehouse isn't going to be around forever singing about "Don't treat me, baby, don't treat me bad." Mm-hmm. It's this Mother Love Bone and Soundgarden, Nirvana, and they were all just starting to come around in early '91. And he goes, "That's going to take over, and I don't know where it's going to be for guys like us." And he was exactly right. And we both saw it. We all saw it. We both saw it coming. The rest of them were like, "I don't know." We were like, "Yeah." And sure enough, they got rid of me because I was too extreme, or whatever the case is. They wanted me to tone it down a bit. And it's I have the highest ratings on the network on our format. What are you talking about? So there was a clash ahead. So they got rid of me, and then they became this weird hybrid. They played alternative and then played classic rock all at the same time, and they were kind of a salad of mess. Yeah, and didn't work, and they folded in '96. So
well, there you go.
Yeah, they couldn't adapt. It's what? Yeah, so it was a whole thing. But you know what? I don't miss a moment of it. The wild ride was great, and a couple of small regrets that I should have just gotten my ass out of bed. And when David Lee Roth was at the studio, I should have done that. Because the guy who interviewed him, Steve, the guy was on after me. I was friends with him, friends with him, and he had Dave call my phone on my answering machine and F with me, and he was going, it was, "Hey, where are you going, man? Why are you here? It's David Lee Roth. Why are you here, dude? I heard you got a lot of cool stories." It's I thought it was a prank, and I'm like, Steve, shut up. Stop. Who did you get to do this? And he goes, "No, Dave was on my show." And he called, we tried calling you, and he left a message. It's I got to get up more often.
That's pretty incredible. And so, okay, so they parted ways with you because they wanted to paint with a broader brush for whatever reason, which anybody who does any kind of broadcasting knows, if you paint with too broad of a brush, you're fucked. Right?
Yeah, I wanted to paint with the same brush, and they chose a brush from 3 different boxes. It's well, aren't we still the same brush? No. Okay.
Yeah. So they learned their lesson about that. And from there, what did you do from there?
I moved to Fresno, California.
Oh, shout out Fresno. We have one of our best friends from LA is from Fresno. So we love Fresno around here.
Yeah. I worked for KRZR, which is still there now. And, worked there for a while, and then also worked at KMBY in Monterey, and kind of commuted, doing part-time for both, and just meeting the bills while I was looking for the next full-time thing. And that didn't work out. I had a lot of applications to other places, and I just ended up going back to Chicago and saying, fuck it, I'm just going to take a year vacation and not do anything. So I went to Greece with my family for 3 months. And, we had my old Mercedes. We fixed it up and sent it over there, and drove from Amsterdam all through Europe, and then hung out in Greece for a while. Yeah.
Holy shit. We got to get that then.
Yeah. That was an adventure in and of itself. That was fun. That was great.
Yeah. Made you have the idea to ship your Mercedes back to Europe?
Well, it was there initially. My dad did it in '80. He fixed it up and sent it over there, and then we shipped it back, and then it was just sitting in the I drove it around in Dallas for a while. It was my car, and then it was kind of too much to maintain, so I traded cars with my mom, who had this Oldsmobile 4-door, typical car. And, it stood in the garage, it stayed in the garage for years. And then, my dad and I looked at each other and he goes, "You want to try it again and just restore it and do the same thing we did in 80? And it's like, yeah, cool. All right, let's do that.
Wow.
And we did. And, that was cool. It was fun. Yeah.
That's incredible. What year was it that you spent all that time in Europe then?
92.
92. Oh, okay. Wow.
So 91, in middle of 91, I left the network, went to Fresno from, 91 to like early 92, and then went back to Chicago to my home and, stayed at home for a bit, and that's it. And then I thought, after that, picked up odd jobs, worked various little radio jobs and did voice work here and there and other jobs. And then picked up, was a traffic reporter for 11 years. And this is all during voice work and everything else and other radio gigs. And then really kicked into voice work in 2012, like hard. And I'm like, this online thing is going to be huge worldwide for people. Yeah. And, you can do live things now. And back then, even the technology was emerging where you could do stuff in real time. And it was like, that was it. It was like the light bulb moment. It's like, let's do this. So I was doing that and programming 2 radio stations at the same time. So I was like constantly juggling, burning the candle at both ends and in the middle. Yeah. And lighting a new one at the same time. So yeah.
How has it been seeing the trend of radio? Because I would probably say for me and Damien's age, I rarely probably listen to radio because the emergence of podcasts, which we're doing right now, and just Spotify in general. And so when did you see like the trend from radio start to with the internet start to go away, or even I know speaking back to Dallas, like Mark Cuban kind of he had radio.com, that was his thing. So do you feel the internet kind of not destroyed radio, but made it pivot?
Well, yeah, more or less. I mean, we've had Sirius XM since 04. So we were one of the OGs of satellite radio, and never listened to regular radio since then. And there's no need to. And even back then, it became like 3 corporations pretty much own all the radio stations, and then there's some mom and pops left out there, and there's some little ones. Like I worked for a couple of indies, but they're small, like the smaller markets usually, and it's all kind of the Ryan Seacrests of the world are the hosts, the Mario Lopez's, and that has their place, but it's all the same thing everywhere. So it's nothing unique and original, and it's the same 500 songs over and over again. It's like, here's Janie's Got a Gun again. Ooh,
I do think that's kind of the tipping point with not only podcasts, but like the internet of any kind of talking heads or anything like that, is even like mainstream TV. It's always the same hosts for no matter what the show is. How do you use the same 6 people for hosting different shows? Get some unique voices in there. Get some people with like some hunger and some drive, not people who have been, on this major platform and now they're on this major platform. It's like, we need some individuality. We need some people with different takes on stuff. And I think that is what really brought stuff like this to light, because it's like, you can listen to anything you want at any time with any different personality.
You remember the Brady Bunch episode where Greg Brady was trying out to sing it for a band?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you remember the quote? It's like, why me? I forget how it went, but it was like, why did you pick me? Because you fit the suit.
See, exactly.
And that's just it. Yeah. Why are these people that have marginal talent at best, let's say? Because they fit the suit.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
And it's cool because I've been passed over I got passed over in the traffic thing full time for somebody who literally worked at a restaurant and had no experience. It's like,
no way.
Wow.
Okay. And back then we had the union, and I was like, okay, so union rep. So is there no seniority here? Or because she just walked in off the street serving tables at table 7 for a burger and fries. And I've been sitting here, I have network experience, and she gets the full-time job and I'm still part-time. How does that work? Crickets. So, you're going to experience all of that. You just got to have a thick skin and roll it off. I mean, there's never going to not be nepotism, casting couch, blah, blah, blah. It's always going to be a thing. Who cares? I mean, it affects you, but you got to just go, whatever. It's part of life. It happens. Just kick your own door in. That's the way I see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the real secret is authenticity will always win out. Even if it doesn't get you to the highest of highs, you're going to get to a level where you're still happy with yourself.
Yeah.
I think that you're not selling out. You're not selling your soul to get to the upper echelon, but you're like mildly successful, doing what you like and staying true to yourself. Right. I think that's a win more so than being Ryan Seacrest.
And there will be other people who will appreciate you. I got hired 2 times locally at radio stations without auditioning or doing a demo at all. They were just like, when can you start? We know you. When can you start?
That's awesome.
So heck with the server from Table 7, I got jobs without even having to try. So, that's where I'm going with that. So turn it around and make it a positive thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I moved back from I moved back from Fresno to Chicago. Been here ever since.
What year was that you moved back?
92.
Oh, you moved back to Chicago in 92.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Dallas from 87 to 91, Fresno 91 to mid 92, and then 92 since till now, Chicago. All the way through.
So I like to ask this question because I'm also a returner, and I was only gone 6-7 years from Lincoln, Nebraska, back in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is a very, very different than Chicago. But but in that time, did you see Chicago change? Like, did it feel like it changed in that time you were gone, or was it still very similar?
From the mid 80s to early 90s, not a lot, really. Yeah. Didn't seem like a lot there. It's a lot different now from then, but not a lot. It didn't seem like that much different. I mean, it was still cool then to go downtown and, go to a ball game at whatever park and all that stuff and, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was still cool. And now it's just kind of a different cool.
Yeah.
But it's more now. Before you would just do things, and now it's like a culinary paradise. You can get any kind of, oh my gosh, I could go on for like an hour and a half about the amount of amazing food that's here. My wife and I have something called Adventure Friday, where she picks a restaurant out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And she's like, let's try it. I don't care what it is. We're just going to try it. I got a list. I'm like, all right, I'm in. Let's go.
Yep.
And we found the most amazing, we've been doing that for like 6 or 7 years. We found the most amazing places. There have been a couple of duds, but like 95% have been like not only keepers, but stuff I will go to as long as we live here.
That's so awesome. We talk about Chicago constantly on this podcast because I was in the food business for over a decade. Christian is a big foodie as well. And Chicago is probably in our top 3 food cities in America for sure. I would literally say Chicago, LA, New York are the 3 in my opinion.
Especially being from Nebraska, where me and Damien is like, Chicago is the like Midwest city, right? Like it's us.
The big city.
Yeah.
We're not going to the coast when your family's driving. You're going to Chicago for vacations. And that's like the big city you go visit. And so like, I know also a lot of people who leave Nebraska go to Chicago because that's where the jobs are, because it is so big.
Not North Platte. No.
Just Christian.
You looking to get some meth?
Sorry, North Platte.
That's Council Bluffs.
Council Bluffs.
Yeah.
So I picked
up real quick. I gotta tell you, I picked up a car from an auction from Pawnee City. So
right on. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I'll tell you how. I've been there a couple of times.
It's again one of those places where like it's not for everyone. But the people from here are very proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Larry the Cable Guy's from Pawnee City. I mean,
he is.
See? But anyway, I'm sorry to derail you. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, so when you say, your hometown is Chicago, are you talking about the city of Chicago or like a suburb of that?
Well, I grew up on the border of Chicago, and then it was the suburb over, but like 2 blocks away was Chicago. It was one of those things. And then I went to the suburbs my family moved to the suburbs when I was like 5.
Okay.
And then we moved and then I did all the other moves. And now I'm back in Chicago proper, but 1 block to the east is a suburb. And then 6 blocks to the west is another suburb. I'm like the very furthest northwest you could get without being out of the city.
Gotcha. Okay. So you find yourself within the city very frequently then?
No, actually, not at all.
I misread that. Cut that. That didn't
Cut
happen.
that. Damien was leading now.
Leading the witness, Your Honor.
No, we are almost never in Chicago except for in our physical house.
Really?
There's so much out here. The suburbs have exploded with activity, with stuff to do. We have that one arena that's kind of by the airport to there's everything out here now. There's, you name it, shopping, food, stuff to do. I mean, venues are popping up, cool little venues with lots of fun stuff to see live. It's great. And comedy clubs are, more than ever instead of the one place that has comedy every other month kind of deal, in the banquet room, but nothing like that anymore. So yeah, it's so much fun to find new restaurants out here. I mean, we've gone to, Korean barbecue places. We've gone to, sushi places, authentic Chinese places, Chinese noodle places, which are just so good. So much, this hybrid Chinese Japanese buffet, which is amazing. Ooh. There's a Polish buffet down the street.
A Polish buffet. Hell
it's the only one of its kind, really. That's called Red Apple. You can find videos of it on YouTube. It's just, it's like going, if your grandmother was Polish and she made a lot of food, that's what it looks like.
Oh, that sounds so good.
It's really good.
A lot of pierogies,
blintzes, pierogies, sausages,
blintzes, all of that. Yeah, ham off the bone, the whole bit. Yeah, it's
my goodness.
It's so good. Yeah.
So, we need to take this podcast on the road and hit Chicago because I'm telling you.
Okay, I'll be the guide. You just say the word. I mean, I will show you what and Chicago. And I know I'm going to set off some people. Don't get all ruffled and freaked out. Chicago's not deep dish pizza and beef. I'm sorry, and hot dogs without ketchup. It's not just that.
No.
It's way more than that. I mean, so much more than that. I mean, can you get a big sloppy pizza with a ton of tomatoes on it? Yeah, but I don't.
I'll go out and ruffle more feathers. I'm not a fan of deep dish.
I've been neither. Much.
It takes way too long. It's like an hour to once you order it to get it made, and you're just like, I didn't order lasagna.
And it's like nobody needs lasagna with a crust. It's already so much carb. I don't need crust on top of it. That's insane.
Plus, I don't need a can of stewed tomatoes on top of my pizza. It's correct. Kind of, I don't like the mouth feel of it. It's kind of, it's like, I feel like Tom Hanks in Big going, it's kind of slippery and gross and cold, and I don't like it. But anyway.
And you're like, my acid reflex.
Yes.
That's where I'm at. I'm like, when I see that much tomato, I'm like, I'm going to have to eat some Tums tonight, baby.
No, yeah.
I'll never recover from this.
There's a place, a Korean barbecue place here called Korean Barbecue on the Lake, and it's in one of the suburbs. It's a beautiful view of the lake right by there. People fishing and sailing, and it's so peaceful and calm. And the food is just mind-blowingly good. Everything they have on the menu is it's so good. We'll drive the 40 minutes just to go there and see the view and just relax and look out the window and go, you know what? This is some of the best food, let alone Korean barbecue we've ever had.
Yeah. We've talked about we've talked about on the podcast, a lot of people who aren't from the Midwest, when you hear, oh yeah, when we went to Lake Michigan, they don't understand how big Lake Michigan is, or like they think of like a lake just being like, oh yeah, I can see like the other side of it, or like it's gross and has algae. And then you look at Lake Michigan, you're like, this is like a sea. This is the ocean. Like it is. It has nice beaches. It's pretty. People actually can, like you said, like sail real boats on it. Like it's insane.
And even going up into Wisconsin, like Manitowoc and Two Rivers and all that, and having eating a dinner on the lake or something. It's cool. Oh, now the other side in Michigan, Indiana. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's fun.
I want to ask, as somebody who was you were originally a Midwesterner, but pretty quickly into your childhood went to Texas.
Right.
I was curious, because of that, what did your vacations look like growing up?
Well, we're Greeks, so we went to Greece pretty much every year, every summer until, they kept going through 87.
Yeah.
And every year, as from a small kid all the way up until the teen years. And we lived with my grandparents. It was a rural kind of cottage kind of thing. And then eventually, the last 4 or 5 years, my dad bought a condo in the nearest big town, and it was all kinds of cool stuff. My uncle had a pizza place downstairs, which was like the best pizza I've ever had in my life. He made pizza with. I'm getting off on the food tangent here.
Let's go.
We're here for it.
He made this pizza with. I want to say I don't know what kind of Dutch cheese it was. Was it Edam? I don't know. Some cheese. Well, it may not have been Edam, but it was some kind of cheese that melted just amazingly, and he would grate it, and it was fresh, and it was the best pizza I've had in my life before, since, and during, and forever. And he also had a brick oven where he would make spaghetti bolognese in the oven with that fresh cheese. It was out of control. It was so good. And my brother and I ran up a huge tab every summer with that place, because it was like, put it on the tab, put it on the tab. My dad will pay for it. Put it on the tab. And he didn't believe it. He's like, "You're from Chicago. What are you talking about? My pizza's the best." I'm like, "No, that pizza's mud. This is serious pizza. This is real pizza."
That's
so
incredible.
yeah, that was fun. So that was pretty much every summer until I was 15, and then and then went back once more in '92 to spend the summer there. So that was fun too.
How was it being a child? Like, do you speak Greek, or can you like understand it, or like?
I do understand it. I speak Gringlish a little. I mean, I can hear. I can't read or write that well. I don't write. I can't write at all. I can't read a little.
Like, it's so different, right? And like how the letter structure is, even just writing it out.
It is. But I can speak it. I'm competent, and I can still speak with my mom, and that stuff. So I'm functional. Let's put it that way. I can get a cab and order food, and get a hotel room and all that stuff.
Yeah. Was it like, were you always excited to go, or were you like, I want to stay in Chicago and play like Little League, or like, was it?
No, I mean, maybe a little, and then once we got there, it was once we got to the condo, it was a lot cooler and a lot more fun for being a kid than being on the farm. It was not a lot to do in being on the farm. So it was a lot more fun. You just got to go out and ride bikes around and go to the beach a lot, and that was a lot more fun. It was great. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. And there was a gymnasium really close by, so just walk there, and you want to shoot hoops or something, and we brought the football with, and they're like, "What's that thing?" And I'll show you how to play some football here. Let's go.
There you go.
Yeah. No, it's Damien, you're going to Greece this summer?
I am. Correct? Yeah. Like on a cruise, so we're hitting the three main like tourist attractions, but it'll be my first time there, and then from there I want to really dedicate some time to go to the not such tourist heavy places. Have you been, like, is there one of the, because I know there's so many islands over there, is there one island that you would recommend that's not one of the big tourist places that you're aware of?
Oddly enough, it is, but there's a lot of stuff that's not touristy to do that's still very cool. Go to Zante, the island of Zante. That's an amazing island. You can actually get flights there.
Nice.
Seasonal flights. So you can fly direct there. You could see the sea turtles, the actual sea turtles that are endangered. That's super cool. You could see the blue caves, which if you're into scuba diving, that's just mind-blowingly cool.
I bet.
There's also the sunset into the Mediterranean, which you can't replace that. You can't AI that. I mean, that's a visual you can never get.
Yeah.
And now they've built up so much since I was there. There's all kinds of, you can go anywhere from, roughing it to a villa with your own pool overlooking the Mediterranean. I mean,
wow.
You name it, you can get it now. So yeah, Zante's got a lot of great stuff that's not the touristy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do that on my own when we're not on the cruise, because when you're cruising, you don't really get much of a say in where you go.
Right, and also the shipwreck. There's a shipwreck there that you can actually take a little boat ride to and see up close.
Okay,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I definitely need to do that. And then we're also hitting Croatia at the same time.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay.
I think Dubrovnik is where we're heading.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to that. But this episode is not about where I'm traveling. This episode is about you. And I did want to get into, so you've done a lot of, obviously, DJing, radio, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But you've also, do you do audiobooks?
I do. I've done 56 audiobooks so far. Wow. You name it. I've done everything from, I just did an audiobook about plumbing.
Okay, right on.
That's
where I recognize your voice.
That's where everybody's heard me. The plumbing. Yeah, buy my books, damn it. A shameless plug. So yeah, I've done everything from poetry to plumbing. One of my best-selling audiobooks is about how to play cornhole. Go figure.
Hey, all right.
You know, so, and I even dipped my toe into weird stuff. Like I did adult poetry. It was strange.
Yeah.
And I did an audiobook series about it was kind of like Twilight meets 50 Shades of Grey. It was a little weird and a lot of characters, and I was the first person, but it was a female character. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
I want to suck your butt.
Yeah, it was not quite that, but it was stuff involving office supplies. So in the first volume, so I went,
I believe
why
you
is
have
there a
my
ruler?
stapler.
Yeah, there was a stapler, and there was a ruler, and I'm going, because I hadn't read anything like that before seriously, and I started laughing. I'm like, all right, I got to just, because it came out of nowhere. It was like, hey, and then she went to the office and, oh, okay, sure, yeah, and I'm sitting going, well, that's not going to make for a good audiobook. Me going, yeah, sure, oh, okay.
Put your own artistic style on it.
She did? That's what happened?
And there's a whole genre of that, and people make a lot of money at that actually. But it was just something I thought I'd try. Why not? And it sold well. It did well. But she replaced me with another. She actually took myself off the books because she got somebody in her ear and said it wasn't a good fit. So all that work I did was undone, which is fine. It sold a lot of copies and made some money.
So she replaced you with the same bitch who stole your job as a traffic reporter.
Yeah. No, not her. No.
Go back to waiting tables.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you get into audiobook? Did someone reach out to you, or did you see an ad in the paper?
No, I went to ACX, which is a website, acx.com. They do all the audiobooks for Audible, which is Audible. Everybody knows Audible.
Audible is Audible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just started, this is like in 2012. I just started auditioning for everything. And I'm like, I just went in blind and just goes, okay, I'll try out for this guy's book. I'll try out for that book. And that's where that NSFW stuff came in. I tried out for everything. And I got pretty much like 90% of the stuff I tried out for, which is great. But then it was overwhelming because I had all these projects due on top of being in radio and on top of having voice work to do. So I was like, what am I doing? This is too much. And I learned pretty quick that you can't. You're burning yourself out too fast. And that's a lot of strain on your voice and your self help and all that stuff, because your mind goes crazy trying to organize, like, how do I fit in this 9-hour audiobook with doing my full-time job with doing voice work? It's like, it was craziness. So I had to kind of set some boundaries and organize a bit, and that's how it really got a lot better than it used to be, because it was you learn fast. I mean, I did stupid things like this one time. I voiced 6 straight hours of audiobook. Don't ever do that at home, kids. Man. 6 straight hours of talking is not a good idea.
You're probably, by the end of it, you're like, she took the stapler.
The end.
Oh, that's funny, because it was from a guy that was an adult film actor writing a book about relationships, and it was from a very interesting point of view, let's put it. And he ended up doing the whole thing. He was like Spielberg. He made me do this one line like 11 times. Like, dude, come on. And he ended up not using my voice anyway. He used his own voice and did it himself. But I got paid for it, so who cares?
Oh, there you go.
Seriously.
Get royalties off the audiobooks? Like
there's either you get paid per hour and then you get nothing else after that, or you get the royalty, which is a risk, and you roll the dice. I've done books that have sold 1 copy. And I've done books that have sold hundreds of copies. Yeah. So, I think it's worth it to me. And I actually, in my voice coaching thing, everybody's like, how do you do audiobooks? And I got a whole course on just audiobooks and how to do it and how to navigate it. And a lot of people I've taught have had already, a guy I just taught a few months ago, he just got a 6-book deal, and I'm just like, that's what I'm looking for. That's
there
it.
You go.
So my stuff is working. So it worked for me. So I figured, why not work for other people? And it does, which is so cool.
Me and Damien need that. We tried to do an ad read last time, trying to record it, and we probably spent. Well, it doesn't help. I have dyslexia, so that just throws me out of ever doing an audio.
That's really hard. Yeah.
We're going to have to put a little like bug in his ear, and he'll just repeat it instead of reading it.
Hey, that's called a live directed session. You can do that.
Oh.
I wanted to ask, you said you tried out for these reads, right?
Yeah.
Do they give you like a segment of their book? Or
yeah.
How does that work?
So you go there and you search through the titles, and let's say you pick a title and it'll have a little bitty audition script, and you send the audition, and then you introduce yourself and upload the audition and say, hey, I'm Mike Paine. I really like the way your book sounded. I thought it'd be really cool because I'm interested in, plumbing or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And, and I would love to narrate your audiobook. If you like my voice, let's work together. And it's just super casual, simple, not this big paragraph of, and I do add, I've got a lot of experience. Have over 38 years of experience, because I don't want them to just think I'm some kid.
Right.
And, I've done this before, so that helps. Mm-hmm. And I've done 55, at the time, 55 audiobooks. So it helps get you to the head of the line with the experience stuff. So that works out. It worked, and it still does, and it works out. And, when you can say that and back it up, it's huge. And be good. And that helps too.
Right.
And
you
gotta be good.
That helps.
So part of being good, is that just like your enthusiasm and your cadence, or being good at it, is that more like try not to have so many edits?
No, I think honestly, it's 75% mental and 25% technical. It's way more mental than if you're nervous about stuff, if you're thinking it's something as simple as cleansing your palate before you go in and start talking, that F's you up in the back of your head. I mean, if you're clicky and you're gummy, and let's say you had like a Milky Way and a glass of milk and a peanut butter sandwich before you go in for a long podcast or something, or a long voiceover session, you're gonna sound pasty and you're gonna sound clicky, and it screws with your mind.
That's a huge pet peeve of mine. I cannot stand, because it's like that cotton mouth. I cannot stand hearing that.
Yeah, because there's been time I really love audiobooks, going back to dyslexia. And so most of the stuff, and there have been times where, like you're talking about, where like I'll start an audiobook that I've been very excited for, but the like reader is just, something in my mind doesn't click. Like it just isn't the thing. And so that really can affect how you listen to it and interpretations of it.
It does, and I teach how to speak with confidence. There's so much of that stuff where I even have examples of other samples that I've been sent, and they're really bad. And this is an example of what not to do. And I'm like, "What's wrong with this audio?" And I'll let them listen to it, and they'll go, "Ooh, and they'll point it out.
Is it just Christian?
No.
He found me out, guys.
No,
prime example of how you should not record.
No, it's just a lot of missteps and a lot of mumbling and a lot of talking over here. And then I'm doing that. It's audio technique. All of the bad to me. all the bad stuff. Yeah. So anyway, enough about producing audiobooks. But yeah, producing audiobooks or voicing audiobooks is very cool. You can voice pretty much anything under the sun. And it's not hard. You can jump in pretty much right away.
Has there ever been where you got it, you were like, okay, this sounds interesting, I got the script, and then you got the full thing and you're just like, this isn't for me, or like I can't, do this?
I just, when I first got into it, I took everything that came at me. So I'm not as big into fiction as I would be nonfiction, because my voice is better suited for nonfiction, just because I think it sounds better. But I've done fiction, and I think it sounds okay, but for me, it's not my preferred medium. I'd rather do nonfiction stuff, only because I sound better at it, and I can do it a lot quicker and turn it around. And it's not as, when you got to remember like 11 characters, you've got to save every character's voice, and then they'll start in chapter 2 and won't appear until chapter 14. And it's like, what did the Twinkly Fairy sound like in chapter 2? Hold on. Twinkly Fairy. Okay. Yeah, it was one of those things. So you got to refer back and stop and start a lot, and it's a whole thing.
It's I'll throw out my favorite fun fact about an audiobook reader. With the Harry Potter series, the character Voldemort, as we say now, was not supposed to be Voldemort. It was supposed to be Voldemort, as in like the French pronounce. But the audio reader pronounced it Voldemort, and so that just stuck forever because of. And so, adding pressure to you, Mike.
When you start listening to enough stuff, you get a great ear, and it's a blessing and a curse. My wife and I both have this blessing and curse. There was a commercial that ran here in Chicago for like 3 years, and it was for an HVAC place, and it was like ABC Pluming, Heating, and Air Conditioning. And they said pluming, and it ran third biggest city in the country, third biggest market, pluming. Nobody caught it.
No.
And it's still on YouTube somewhere. Are you kidding me? Pluming? Really? Pluming. Okay, let's go with that.
I love that.
And you start to question yourself, going, are we tired? Did we just pluming?
Have I always said it wrong?
Yeah. Do we need someone to come over to the house and plume? I don't.
It sounds like me and Damien produced that ad.
You know?
Yeah. Let that one go through. Didn't catch that in post.
Yeah. Or you hear someone say, yeah, so I took a trip to New York and we visited Manhattan.
Oh yeah, Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
There's two T's in Manhattan, not Manhattan.
Or Manhattan, like with the D. That's another one.
Or when people butcher names of stadiums, that's all. Soldiers Field and Kaminsky Park. It's like, oh, okay, Kaminsky. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he on Law and Order the second season? Kaminsky. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, I don't know.
You kind of mentioned AI, and I'm just kind of curious. Again, we can cut this as we talked about earlier if you're not cool talking.
Yeah,
but like AI coming into that space, right? Because it's a new technology thing. It's getting smarter. I don't know if that's the correct term. Do you think we'll get to a point where AI does start to replace like audiobook readers or voiceover in general, or like even now, like Spotify has DJ, can't remember his name, but that thing of like starting to, do you think that's going to be a worry in some aspect?
I see a lot of the voice acting community overreact to AI. Now, there is a good precedent to be set because people shouldn't steal famous voices and use them against, use them without their authority and their permission, obviously. And same with any voice actor or any voice. But we've all seen the YouTube videos that are cringy. They're very plastic and they sound like that when for Joan Smith, press 1. I mean, it's all a lot of that
Stephen
still
Hawking
sounds,
voice.
Yeah, not even that good. I mean, it's just very clinical and cringy sounding, and pronunciations are off, and there's no inflection, there's no emotion, there's no nothing. It's just like something dramatic, like a fiction piece or something dramatic on YouTube. I tried listening to something. It was like, and then he snuck up behind him and he stabbed him in the back.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. That's really dramatic there.
Yeah. Well, I think also part of that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with the need for unique presence, individuality, different voices. I think the reason that people listen to podcasts or the news or anything that's coming up in a big way right now, or YouTube is a big one, it's because it's different personalities. You don't want to copy paste every episode having the same voice, because then it's not interesting anymore. Yeah,
you got to make yourself different without being dangerous. I mean, you don't have to be on ridiculousness to be unique. I mean, or jackass. You don't need to do all that. You could, but you probably end up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home. Don't do that.
No, there are some people who, there are some voices like AI could not replicate kind of thing. And I think that is, or like you said, of like, do you have fun? Like with you mentioned you prefer fiction over nonfiction over fiction, of like, do you have you had to create like I don't want to say sillier voice, but where you're like reading the character, or like, do you have from even the author of like notes to be like how this character might sound, or like that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I get no direction. Here's a script, do it. And sometimes I get over directed, like there's Spielberg for the simplest thing. It's like, dude, it's for a pizza joint. It's not that hard. You order the cheese or pepperoni, or what's hard? There's this one game that I auditioned for the lead role. It was an RPG game, and I didn't get the lead role, but they said, we have to use your voice in something. Can you do the other role of the shaman tortoise? And I'm like, yeah, what is the shaman tortoise's lines? There are no lines. You have to make up your own language, like kind of like Klingon or something. Yeah. And I'm like, cool. Oh, that's a challenge. All right. And that's how fun. Is it? And he just said, just make him deep and angry and gravelly, kind of gruff. Okay. So I threw a bunch of lines together. It was like one of those kind of things. And And then doing the lines cold, it doesn't make sense. But then I saw the actual gameplay, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, wow, all right. When he got shot, he reacts like this. When he, comes into the room or comes into the screen, he says, "Okay, I will defeat you" in his own weird language.
Yeah.
So it actually kind of works, and it was kind of cool because it wasn't even, and then the snail's like, "Did I put that?" There's no words. Yeah. It's very different. It's kind of cool. Clid the Snail, by the way, is the name of the game.
Okay, right on. I was going to ask you too, when you're doing voiceover for video games, do you get to see what your character is, or do you get to know anything about the plot of the storyline, or is it just straight up cold?
Yes, it's both. Sometimes you get an image. Sometimes, like the Clid the Snail game, I got an image of the tortoise, and I've got the lines and the direction, and not the lines, but it'll say something like, "The shaman tortoise walks into the room, and he announces himself," but you're not using words. Or, "This is when he's attacked. This is when he attacks." That's the kind of direction. So I had to kind of make up different lines with that. Or like I would do a slot machine game, and you'd have to come up with the usual stuff like "big win," say that 4 different ways, and mega win and bonus time and all that fun stuff. So even that's kind of cool too. And there was one that I actually downloaded and played it. It's kind of surreal playing an online slot game and hearing yourself say "big win."
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, okay, Mike, yeah, great, big win, yeah. But it's kind of cool in a way too. There is this one time when I was doing voice tracking back in the late 90s, early 2000s for a station, suburban Chicago station, and I had recorded all the stuff for the weekend, and that's what I did. I wasn't live. I just recorded all my weekend shows, and then I was on my way out and got gassing the car on the way back home, and it just so happened my show popped on, and I was on the air doing a couple of breaks, and I was in the store getting milk or something, And as I was checking out, my break came up, and I was saying, "Yeah, I'll just milk and pump 7." And he was going, looking at the speaker, looking at me, looking at the speaker, looking at me, going, "Okay, that'll be 2270."
God,
70.
Is that you?
Yeah, and he was like, "All right, have a good one." This look on his face, like, okay. So yeah, that was kind of weird and cool hearing yourself.
So it's safe to say you're definitely one of those people who doesn't hate the sound of his own voice.
I get tired of it because after a long night of the most I've ever voiced in one night, I think is like 48 scripts. And after if script 42, you're just going, okay, that's great. Yay. Yeah. Anybody gets tired of themselves after that long, but yeah. No, I don't get tired of it. It's kind of a challenge. I'm more along the lines of ultra nitpicky with like, oh, I screwed up that word. Let's do that again. Or I didn't like the way that sounded. More than, I hate my voice. I sound like crap. Nothing like that.
Yeah, I'm going to steal one of Damien's line of taking it back. When you were a kid growing up in Chicago, was radio always your goal? Or was it just kind of a thing where as you got older, it became more of a... Because you talked about going into broadcasting as a college major, right. Was it always something you wanted to do?
Yeah, that's the funny part of it is the radio network that I ended up working for was on the air in Chicago at the time I was leaving. And I grew up, my junior year in high school listening to it and thought, that'd be so cool to be on that station.
Yeah.
2 years later, I'm on that network.
That's crazy.
And how, it's just from some kid in high school going, that would be cool. Totally naive, not knowing anything to actually doing it. It's just, that doesn't happen. How does that happen? And it did. So, hey, cool.
Yeah.
Can I actually have a question about that? Because as somebody who, and this may or may not fit the bill for you as well, but for somebody who has come from, humble beginnings to now accomplishing a lot of the things that I set out to do, do you have like overwhelming feelings about that? Like, is it surreal to be doing what you always wanted to do? Or does it feel so natural that it's just like, yeah, why wouldn't I do that?
A little of both. I mean, when you get your goal at, 17, 18, when you do voice work and then into radio, and you get both things you wanted to do so early, it's like, well, how do you motivate yourself? And I do all the time because, and it may sound kind of cliche, but you're giving somebody's dream a voice at the end of the day, really. I mean, whether it's an audiobook and I've had so many people say that. It's like, I've always wanted a voice for my whatever it is, my game, my book, my video, my narration, whatever it is. And even if it's something as simple as a plumbing audiobook, you know what though? Somebody wants that plumbing book out there. And I do church announcements. I don't say no to pretty much anybody. It doesn't matter. That's still important to somebody. Someone's going, oh yeah, church announcements. Why would you even take the money to do that? Because somebody wants it. Yeah. That's important to somebody. Why would you say no to that? And I get a lot of that in the voice acting community sometimes, this kind of high and mighty thing. Not everybody, but a lot of them. It's like, oh, I need, this crazy rate, and I need this. I'll only do, major things. It's like, well, yeah, we'd all love to make, $10,000 a second, but that's it's not reality. I mean,
right.
Major actors make that. We don't make that. So it's you got to be a little more realistic. And plus, everybody's project isn't less important because they have less of a budget. That's my thing.
Yeah. No, that's huge. That's a big poignant thing that you just said, because it's like, who's going to do, like we said, the Ryan Seacrests, they're going to take the jobs for $4.5 million an episode or whatever, but who's going to do the things that these mom and pop places need? They need business. They need things like that. And it's the everymen kind of like you, who are like, I have to do that because they need somebody to do it. And I want to be that guy.
Yeah. I did a commercial the other day for a small market radio station, and it was for some kind of, I don't know, sump pump service or something like that. And it's pretty mundane stuff, but you know what? They wanted broadcast rights. And with the broadcast rights, I ended up making a couple of dollars, but not $1 million, but still, it took me 5 minutes to do. I mean,
they were appreciative.
They loved it. It's worth it for me. I'm going to work with them in the future because they loved it. And it's something I've done 1 million times. Can you keep it in 30 seconds because we're a radio station? Yeah, that's my thing. I do timing. That's my job. So yeah. So that's the kind of stuff where you don't just go, no. I mean, should you, do 20,000 words for $1? Of course not. No. Should you turn somebody down because they have, I got $50. This is all I can afford to do my voicemail saying, hi, this is Joe, the tax guy. I'm not here. Can you leave a message? Yeah, I can do that. No problem. I'll even add some background music for free. How about that?
There you go.
And they love you. I mean, seriously, you got to work with people. You just can't go, oh, I'm too good for you. I hate that. I'm not that guy.
That mindset that you have, is that something that you incorporate in your coaching lessons?
All the time. And I drill that in. It's like, don't, if you do get up there, first of all, temper your expectations. There's a lot of it's like broadcasting school and the old kind of modeling come-ons where you go to the hotel and they're like, if you take our photograph package and we have our photographer, and if you pay $2,000, you'll be famous. Yeah. That's all crap. And there's a lot of that in voice acting too, where they'll say, if you take my, thousands of dollars worth of courses, you'll be on Disney projects in no time. No, you won't. It's just not. It's not a thing. Yeah. It's not. I mean, it's no slight against you, but it's not. And people that'll promise you things like that are not being realistic. I don't promise anything. I'll show you where to find stuff. I'll show you how to do it, and I'll show you how to not, show you how to be professional. I'll teach you everything I know. I'm not a gatekeeper. I don't hold back information. I'm not one of those, ooh, if you pay the extra $8,000, I'll unlock the door to your. There's no secret stuff. No. I'll tell you everything. I have nothing to hide. We need more voices is the way I look at it.
Absolutely.
It definitely sounds like you're definitely in for it.
I'm all in. I'm for the actual
teaching of it, like an actual teacher versus like, hey, I just want to make money. Like you actually want,
Yeah. I mean, I have on Reddit, I would post my gig somewhere and it would get all these downvotes. It's like, oh, you're too low. It's probably a scam. It's like, no, I'm not. Ask the students I've taught that are doing successfully now in audiobooks and other stuff. They won't say it's a scam. They'll say, my God. And I get feedback saying, Mike, I can't thank you enough. You've helped me so much. And I've gotten off the ground and I'm doing audiobooks and I'm on Instagram getting gigs. And I'm, it's like, you're on Instagram getting gigs? You go get those gigs from Instagram. How did you do that? Tell me,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I want to see people make it. What's the point of taking money and seeing people pissed off going, Mike, what the hell was that? I don't do that. So I'm not going to be that guy that's going, hey, I got this course for you. And I see these people out there charging thousands of dollars, like $4 or $5 grand, up to $4 or $5 grand for one demo reel. It's like, what? Yeah. I don't know about you, but I don't have that money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of us don't have that kind of money just laying around. Fold. That's not folding money for me. I'm sorry.
And to spend that kind of dollar to get into something for the first time, who's got $4 grand to try something out?
Yeah, and it's then there's the whole pay to play thing. I don't think it's right that you have to pay a subscription fee of $2,200 a year for the chance to audition at something. That seems wrong to me. So I don't recommend that. But that's a whole other. I'm getting into the coaching side, obviously. But that's there's a whole thing of it's so overwhelming to just start off and say I want to be a voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to look through, and there's so much gunk to wade through. It's kind of like wading through an algae and mud-filled pond to find the necklace you lost. But the necklace is there. You just have to wade through all the crap to find it.
Right.
Yeah, it especially can be so overwhelming. Like with our experience of just starting a podcast, of like, there's a lot of like shit out there where it's just like you have to dig, and you're like, and then also realizing, like, I think also helped us, and it sounds like what you do with your project of like, no, you're not getting those Disney voiceovers, or like me and Damien talked about, where like we're not famous comedians who are going to have the #1 podcast on Spotify. And I think that helped us a lot, being like, hey, we're doing this for fun. We enjoy it. And if we make money, we're going to be super happy.
Yeah.
And if not, we're going to keep doing it just in spite of it.
Yeah.
Right. I went into the voice acting thing. I mean, I was doing it all along, but like in 2012, when I really dove head in, my first goal was to make grocery money. Yeah. My next goal was to pay the electric bill. Then it was, okay, let's try and pay the electric and the phone bill. And then it started, snowballing. And now I'm, making a living at it, full-time just voice acting. I left radio 4 years ago now, because it was too much. I mean, I was 24/7 and it was too much. I mean, the money was good and I worked from home, but it was too much stress.
Yeah.
It was too much. The radio stuff was way too much. It was constant 24/7, and we were both doing it. So my wife has a full-time job, and she was doing all the invoicing for them, as well as doing ads, and we were doing our own show, and I was doing news, weather, sports, and ads, and programming it, and it was a whole thing. It was way, way, way too much. So you had to prioritize. So
you found your niche. You found your, the thing that's making you happy now, right, in Chicago?
Yeah, the fork in the road is like, okay, here's radio, here's voice acting. I can't do both. I can't maintain that because the stress is too great. So I'm like, voice acting it is. I still work from home. I don't have to have the pressure of constant phone calls, emails, texts 24/7, and then deadlines. And then if something goes wrong at the station, I'm the one that gets the calls. It's like, no, it's too much.
So Chicago's a pretty good place to be if you want to do voiceover acting, it sounds like.
It is. I mean, actually, I've never done anything in person in Chicago except once, and that was in the 90s. So everything I've done stuff for clients from Chicago through another person that made the video somewhere else, even somewhere around the world, even in like the UK or something, for a Chicago client. So
cool.
It's funny. It's that's how the world works. I don't even, that's a long way around, but hey, if they hire me and I'm here, I do work for the Art Institute of Chicago, their training courses. So cool. So their students, they train the College of the Art Institute. I do all their training courses for like 3D printing and stuff like that. So and they found me through one of the websites I'm on, a freelancer website I'm on. So, they found me from some website based in the UK for here, and I live here. So there you go. How would they have found me, otherwise? So there you go.
That's really cool. And it kind of brings me to one of my last questions here, is kind of to go back to the kind of theme of the podcast, which is, so now that we know that you can realistically get these jobs from just about anywhere, is there any thoughts about maybe living elsewhere, or is Chicago where you're staying?
I'll be honest with you. You kind of mentioned earlier, do do you kind of have a bucket list? I mean, you kind of alluded to that. And I do. My bucket list is I want a house with an indoor pool.
There you go. Okay.
That is you just triggered me because that's also on my bucket list.
Oh.
My wife's like, that is the worst idea to have in Nebraska. Just the humidity alone, but I want it.
I'm on, you could ask my wife, I'm on Zillow and Redfin every day looking, and there's houses I save and everything. And yeah, that's my list. So it's not going to happen here because the taxes are crushing. They're the second highest in the country, and it's too high to live here for, going into, I'm 56, so I'm getting older. So I don't see myself retiring here because I don't want to pay 20 grand in taxes to have a house with a pool. That's stupid. So somewhere, close-ish to the Midwest, but not here necessarily would be great. I mean, there was a house in Missouri that just became contingent and I was bummed. And I was like, we're like a year away from really looking hard. So, but yeah, house with an indoor pool, that's my goal. And then still working from home, obviously.
Hell yeah. Well, that's an awesome goal. And then on the tails of that, I'll ask you the question that I ask everybody because I like it. It kind of closes out the episode and it gets us a full scope feel of the guest. With that in mind, right? That being one of your goals is an indoor pool.
Right.
I will ask you to block out everything else. If you could find a house with a pool in it anywhere on Earth and nothing else mattered, where do you think that would be?
If nothing else mattered, it would probably be Greece because just a house with an indoor pool and the view of the Mediterranean, I don't think you could beat that.
No. Oh, that sounds incredible.
And great food and quiet and calm and that to me would be ideal. And the weather's mostly great. So
and just the vibe that they have there is very like, everybody just do your thing, enjoy life. It seems like a great way to retire, to be honest.
Yeah, there's something called running on Greek time, and that's it says 2, but if you get there at like 3:30, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. The last thing that I'll ask you is, with such a plethora of experience and stories and things like that, where can people find you not only to check you out, but maybe if they want to sign up for your courses, can you kind of shout out your stuff?
Yeah,
you got it. So if you want to coach with me and I will coach you, Mike Paine Coaching, that's it's my common spelling, PAINE Coaching, all run together, .card, CARRD.co. And you could also find my audio, soundcloud.com/Mike-Paine-show, which is where all my audio is. I just did a dubstep song that just dropped a couple weeks ago. It's got a couple thousand views plus already. So that's kind of views, listens already. Yeah. And my voiceover stuff is Mike Paine Show, all run together, PAINE.CARRD, card.co. And if you want to search for my crazy radio interviews, just search Crazy Mike Paine on YouTube, and it'll pull up all of my wacky interviews and weird stuff. So from the radio days. So you'll see all the heavy metal, hard rock madness that I did in the late 80s, early 90s. So there you go.
Well, I will definitely be checking those out. We'll also be putting those in the episode. And I hope that people go check that out because, man, what an awesome episode. What a great guest. And
thank you much, man.
I'm sure we just scratched the surface on your life as a broadcaster. And, the door's always open if you ever want to come back on and
oh my gosh,
stuff.
Yeah. I could tell you some stories that I haven't told before, and I'd love to tell them someday. And I threatened to, so I think this is the perfect place to do it right here.
Me and Damien can talk forever. We could. I feel like every episode could be a long episode, but with you, it probably would be days.
It would be quite a long thing. It would, yeah. So remain, roam, return. I would like to remain, roam, and return at another time.
Let's do it. Let's hang up this call and get it on the books for a part 2.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, and as always,
bye.
Bye.